This show is sponsored by the Comics Shop. We hope you enjoy the show.
G'day, and how is everyone going? Welcome to Chinwag, episode 22. Now, our guest this evening is Mr. Max Ferrada from Stellarlands.
Yes, that's correct. Hello, everyone.
Just about to slam down onto shelves and computers everywhere. But for those people watching at home, basically it's a show that we have 6 prompting words, questions: who, what, where, when, why, and how. Look, sometimes we don't get through them. Sometimes we do because we're too busy chin-wagging and talking about all these other things in between. So comments are all welcome. Anything you want to know about Stellarlands, now is the time to get into it. This is hello to everyone that's already said hello, everyone that's viewing. We'll do our best to get through everything. And if I drop in or out, Max is going to keep going. A few technical difficulties, as you know what happens, but we got Sizzle as backup. Yeah, the scissors in the house in case anything goes bad. But other than that, Max Ferrada, I ask you the first question, sir.
Yes.
Who?
I am, well, my pen name is Max. It's not my real name, but we'll go by Max. We'll ride this wave with that name. And who am I? I'm just a guy sitting on a chair, drinking tea, and
What sort of tea are you drinking, Max? Tea's an important thing.
Yeah, it's just green tea. Apparently, they're supposed to be good for your collagen levels, keeps you looking young.
Mm-hmm.
You combine that with some vitamin C pills and just cut out the red meat, and boom, you're Paul Rudd.
Yeah. I was going to say, now you're not going to turn around and reveal to us all that you're actually like 89 or something, looking like a 25-year-old man.
Well, ostensibly that is the goal, right?
Longevity of life, man.
Or using surrogates. I think we're living in that age now where we can transpose our consciousness into another body through various means, whether it be androids or chemical binding to an organic life form. We're there. Someone's been born who's going to live forever, jumping from one vessel to vessel. I know.
Yeah. Did you ever see that TV show? Oh, the name escapes me, but they had.
House?
What was that?
Doll's House, maybe? No?
Oh, there is that too. I didn't think about that, but no, there was another one I can't remember. And they used to put their personalities and their identities on discs, and they used to put it in the back of their neck, and they'd change bodies, so they'd live for hundreds and hundreds of years going through different worlds and things like that. It's on Netflix. It'll come to me, man. I've got a shocking memory sometimes, but it'll pop in there. But
by the end of this, we'll both have a catalog of various things to watch. And
absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's you just forget their bloody names, mate. It's that's just how it is, Max. See, I don't drink green tea or take vitamin C tablets, man. So I'm probably a little bit higher up the age bracket than you are, mate.
I'll tell you this: I am very jealous of your magnificent beard. That avalanche cascading down the lower half of your face. I can't grow a beard. I can't even grow a mustache. I mean, I've tried. So yes,
it's a double-edged sword, Max. Altered Carbon Rusty. Thank you, mate. Good on you. Altered Carbon's the name of the show, Max. See, you got people in the audience helping us out. All right. Hey, Max, we got Danny Nolan. Hi, Max. I've seen a bit of the artwork. Is your style influenced by Frank Quietly? If not, who are your influences? Now, from that, buddy, Danny's suggesting you're artistically inclined. Now, with Stellarlands, what is your role with Stellarlands?
As much as I would like to attribute myself the mantle of a drawer, an illustrator, or a painter, I am not. I am just a lowly writer, just one of those I think Robert Downey Jr. called us mole people who hang around in the dark and just churn out scripts. Well, I guess, to subscribe to Downey's illustration, I am one of those mole people. But that is, I take that as a massive compliment to our artist, our resident artist. His name is Ben Worrell. He goes by the handle of Ben Likes to Draw, and he and I have formed this just incredible simpatico where I don't really even have to communicate with any discernible detail. He draws just based on the parameters of my writing, and he draws quickly. He's like Mobius. It's amazing. So
well, I had a conversation with a writer a couple of weeks ago on the show. He brought forward the suggestion that when you find an artist that as a writer that like you sync with them almost. Mm-hmm. It's like you're constantly surprised. You're like uni mind sort of working, mate. That's obviously how you feel with your bloke, eh?
It's completely intuitive, and I'd like to think that it's not a type of chemistry that's isolated to your professional life. I sincerely believe that who you throw yourself in with determines your progression in life. You're a direct reflection of your inner circle, both professionally and personally, which is why I keep saying I think I'm in very good company with the people at Comex.
I like to stay positive. So, like everyone that I've met in the comic book community are positive people. So, I mean, Max, you're just sort of like reflecting the positivity, man, that we like to, get out there, because positivity shows in the work. I've had a look at Stellarlands, man, and I was pretty much blown away, to be honest with you, by the professionalism, the writing, how it looks, like even your promotions and stuff that are all coming out, like
Thank
across.
You very much. Appreciate that.
That's cool, man. It's cool. What got you to the journey of Stellarlands, mate? When was that moment? Like, was it a kid? Are you influenced?
Okay. All right. Okay. You broke up a bit, but I assume that question was what brought me to create Stellarlands, more or less. And yes, to answer that, it's been a long gestating idea, but it was okay. Well, first of all, let me preface this by saying that I'm a massive introvert. I don't really go out much. I think the best way I've heard it described is an extrovert starts the day with 0 coins, and whenever they go out and interact with a person, they receive a coin, and by the end of their accumulation of interactions, they'll have a mountain of coins. Those coins are a representation of energy. An introvert, myself, starts the day with a mountain of coins, and every interaction he finds himself surrendering a coin, and by the end of the accumulation of interactions, he'll have very few coins. And that's I feel guilty for saying this, but I really enjoyed our lockdown, our period of 3 months of lockdown in 2021. I know a lot of people were were having a very tough time. I would dare say a majority of people, but there is a small subculture of introverts who actually thrived, and I took a lot of short online courses. I learned another language, and I got this Stellarlands off the ground. I put pen to paper. I downloaded Final Draft Pro to include its comic book interface. And I'm a filmmaker by trade. I'm a videographer by trade. That's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
So I was able to translate a lot of those script writing skills and those framing skills. If I can just be so bold as to say that I do have framing skills. I'm more of an editor, and the part I relish most is writing. But no one was going out making films. I couldn't pick up the phone and talk to an actor and say, hey, let's all meet up at this space and let's workshop a script, which is what I'm doing now with other projects. But during that lockdown, I was able to finally manifest these images, these characters, these bits of dialogue, which have been long gestating in my mind. I think Alan Moore said it best. I mean, with a film, you need an army. You need a small army for pre-production, for production, for post, cinematographers, location scouts, producers, actors, script writers, script editors, and then that's just during the production side. Once the film is done, then you have a whole film festival gamut to run and a whole collection of other personalities. Whereas with comic books, all you need is a pencil. I think Alan Moore said a biro. All you need is a biro, and yeah, he was correct. Of course, my passion lay more towards the world building and the writing side. So I did need Ben, but Ben, who is the artist here, represented everybody who would otherwise be contributing in a film production. He was the actor, he was the cinematographer, the gaffer, the grip, everybody, and I'm just a person trapped behind the nauseating glow of their laptop, churning out these scenarios.
How did you find him, mate? What process was it? Because obviously, from what you're saying, first time comic book. You can obviously bring people together with and what was it that where did you find Ben? Has Ben done things before? Has
No, this was through my other friend who has been a guest on maybe not Tuesday Chinwag, but on other comics videos. A friend of mine, SK.
Yeah.
I met him through a Facebook group that was set up by SK. Now here's where the poetry of it comes along. Ben was the first one to apply. Of course, you never, just give the assignment to the first person who applies, so to speak. You see the long list or the short list of everybody else who's applied, and you devote a large chunk of your time to going through a lot of samples and past works and so on. And it just so happened that I could have stopped that task with the first application, so to speak. That's where the poetry of it comes along. So
man, that's I guess positive energy attracts the positive. So with the amount of positive energy that you put out, like you asked, and you
yes, precisely, yeah. Your world is a reflection of your inward, I guess, spirituality or emotional architecture.
So with now, how long does it take you guys? Were you like Stellarlands is 8 issues in total? Is that what you want to get to? Obviously, we've got to start at 1, but the overall goal, is 8.
Yeah, that's the intention, of course. James Cameron was most famous for saying, if nobody watches Avatar 2, then I'm not making 3 and 4. And let's just hope we get some eyeballs on issues 1 and 2.
It's from what I can understand, is it like the main character that's in it?
Okay.
Is she an ongoing character, or are these like self-contained stories that you want to get through?
No, these are all self-contained, stories, but they are tangentially connected. Someone who's a main character in one issue can be a supporting actor in another issue, or just a walk-on. And this whole creative philosophy stems from Balzac. I'm not going to pretend that I've read Balzac, but he did create like a ridiculous number of books. I believe it was 90 books, which were all interconnected. The Human Comedy, I believe it was called, and it was his life's work, and they were all these various books were connected through characters, through another character. And if I can cite another influence, that would be The Wire. And The Wire, each season of The Wire is devoted to a specific culture in Baltimore. Season 1 was the streets, season 2 was the docks, season 3 was politics and this conglomeration, this very creative
system. Mate, I actually
yes.
I actually am a massive fan of The Wire.
Hey.
I think that's possibly one of the greatest TV shows I've ever seen.
It's right on top for me. Yes,
mate. McNulty is one of the greatest characters that ever to grace the television.
So I take it McNulty is your favorite character in this.
100%.
So many amazing characters. Yeah.
So many dimensions to him, man. As a character, you see him as just this. I guess a larrikin that only hurts himself. You know what I mean? To getting himself together and just becoming something great. But I would recommend to anyone that hasn't seen The Wire, go and check it out, because storytelling wise, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it is. And that's what I meant by Balzacian, because they're all interconnected. And there was even that one scene where a main villain and a lawyer character, who are very prominent characters in the scheme of the show, but who actually never cross paths within the inside universe, the diegesis of the show. And they just have this one seemingly insignificant scene where they run into each other in the courthouse. Yes, Omar is my favorite
does rule.
Yeah.
Omar was the man, all right, man.
Yes. Rest in peace, Michael.
Yeah. No, good on you, Gary, because obviously he's seen The Wire, because Omar's another very amazing character.
Yes.
Yeah. Righto, man. So
that's where Stellarlands gets a lot of its draws a lot of influence and derives a template. So if we can cast a sort of juxtaposition, each issue of Stellarlands will follow a different subculture of the galaxy or a war, because the main thrust of the narrative of the Stellarlands story centers around a war of a questionable invasion of a sovereign planet.
Where did the idea of Stellarlands come from, mate? Like, have you always been able to just pop into your head one day? Had it been brewing for a while, and with COVID and the lockdown, you decided, look, to hell with it?
Yeah, well, COVID was certainly the inciting event. Was what propelled everything into motion and creation. But I have a degree in politics as well. I have a degree in international relations, and so I know a bit of the motivations behind various governments, and I could surmise them, or I could I could quote you history and so on, and this is, I guess, my own wish fulfillment of how my version of history would unfold. And it just so happens that in my version of history, the aggressors are several alien species. Again, that derives from another obsession of mine, which is the Mass Effect series. So I get, and in many ways, Mass Effect is like The Wire, where Wire tackles the war on drugs, whereas Mass Effect has this incredible intergalactic war with was it? Yeah,
Man, I love intergalactic stuff. Like I'm a huge science fiction. I mean, don't get me wrong, fantasy's like close behind, but for me, science fiction's where it's at. Like when you initially started talking about getting intergalactic, were you like, did you realize that your world that you were creating was going to be so big initially, or did you start with a small nucleus and it just expanded with everything that you're like that?
Yes. Well,
Why did it just?
well, if I can just put myself in the mind of a politics student, if it does start with a war, and then you look at how things ripple out and affect various facets of humanity. So there's the refugee experience by civilians who are displaced by fighting on the ground. There's the perspectives of generals who are ostensibly ordering young men and women to their deaths. There's the politics angle of politicians who are being elected on the basis of either stopping or starting a war. There's perspectives from the actual boots on the ground, from the various convoys and the battalions who are enacting out these missions. And there's views from the quote unquote bunker, which is the opposition. So yeah, that's all the various perspectives which I wanted to to uncover, to unfold. And that's what being a history student is. It's examining these perspectives, these uh, these points of view which are orbiting around I guess a famous either event or a series of events that we take for granted as an image, as two buildings on fire or a mushroom cloud. There's a ecology of lives that surround these images.
Oh, mate, I definitely think that with the thought that's gone into it and the love and the time,
Mhm.
first issue, that this is just the start.
Well, yes, I hope so. I've already scripted out the other 7 of the 8 issues. But if I can just talk about the first issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the first issue concerns I guess the popular nomenclature is black ops, like the word I'm looking for. I guess the correct term on the dotted line is covert operations. Things that happen off the books and which we don't find out about until declassification years later. Whether it be right now what's going on with in Iran, and how during Obama's administration they declassified a whole bunch of documents which did show CIA intervention into the ousting of Mossadegh and the installation of the Shah and his regime. And that's just one aspect that I'm looking at, and it physicalizes in this particular issue. In this issue, we have our universe. The universe of Stellarlands is populated by preters, Preter, which is short for preternaturals, which can be defined as someone with extraordinary abilities, mainly physical abilities. And in the evolution of this world, there are certain human beings that have evolved to sort of live in a universe where you can travel interplanetarily. So just the way humans evolved to crawl out of the slime and breathe in oxygen several millennia from now, if we keep on throwing ourselves into space, we're going to evolve the capacity to survive in space. That much is inevitable, and evolution has indicated these things happening on a smaller level through fossil records. So these predators, in order to survive these long journeys to other planets, you have to have super speed, you have to have super strength, and one of these predators is given the covert mission of traveling to a secret moon base which has been infiltrated by hostiles in order to retrieve delicate intel. And during this mission, she runs. She faces her own internal struggles, but she runs into hostiles, which become allies, who both help and hinder her in her mission. Yes, and if I can just say something about superpowers as well.
Absolutely,
I think it's important just to say outright that in the world I'm creating, superpowers aren't necessarily vital. They are neither a liability or something that can be utilized to fulfill a central narrative purpose. But I wouldn't go so far as to subscribe to Alan Moore's ethos that superpowers are useless. But if Michael Moore wrote a comic book, how cool would that be? Anyway.
You never know who's listening, Max. You never know, mate. Maybe he'll pick it up on the old interwebs one day and go, "That Max, he's onto something." I'm going to write.
Yes, he'll be decidedly left-wing, I'm sure.
Yeah. Now, no doubt.
Yes. Well, just getting back to the superhero aspects of it, because if you come in to this comic book just expecting a visceral experience and flights of fancy, which I'm a massive fan of, don't get me wrong, but they're just not a priority. The fights and the flexing of extraordinary abilities isn't a narrative priority within Stellarlands. I think the main concept here is verisimilitude. Are you familiar with that term, verisimilitude?
No, I'm not, mate. I'm personally not. I'm not sure if anyone of the viewers could be or couldn't be. Do you want to explain that to us?
Okay, well, the director of Superman, he had the films. Donner, I believe.
Donner,
Richard. Yeah. He also did the Goonies, but he had one word written in his office, just emblazoned for all to see, and that was verisimilitude, which means that your flights of fancy have to be grounded within some basis of scientific or even just human realism.
Yeah.
Which is not to say that films that don't have verisimilitude are inferior, because Star Wars completely lacks verisimilitude. There is, as far as I can see, especially with the original trilogy, there is no handling of gravity, or time dilation. You just go to a planet like you're just going to another neighborhood. An excellent series with verisimilitude is The Expanse, where people are very much affected by gravity, to the extent that those who dwell on asteroids, when they come to Earth, the gravity on Earth is so heavy that it can be used as a form of torture. So that's one form of verisimilitude. There has to be some sort of defining realism and groundedness that keeps things together. And with Stellarlands, yes, it's reflected in the science, but it's also reflected on the very human problems. Now, not to put it lightly, but the protagonist, Anne-Eliza, is a misanthrope, and she's also an alcoholic. But I didn't write it in a way where the alcoholism was incidental, as it would be in the case of, say, Hancock, which is another film that I love. If you watch Hancock, you would come to the conclusion that, wow, that superhero has a drinking problem. But in my book, the superpowers are so grounded, and the human problems are so forefronted that you would read it and you would say that alcoholic happens to have superpowers. Yeah, that's where that's where my I guess my creative priorities or the architecture of the characters lie.
No, I like it, man. Like lots of deep thinking there, because it's world building. It's it's tricky to get things right.
Yes. I've read Battle for Bustle as well, the first issue. There's some
thank you, mate.
very good world building there as well. You definitely have a sense of the grime and the air of the place. Yes.
No, well, look, man, that's why I was excited to have a yarn to you tonight, because one of the things that I've always enjoyed immensely was finding out where people get their inspirations from, particularly world builders, like yourself. And did you, while you were like writing the idea of it and getting it together, were you reading comics? Are you or are you a bit more novelish, sort of, like novel sort of a bloke?
Look, I could just do this. I could reach to the side, and I could get you one of each. Here's Blankets.
Yeah.
There you go. And here's Raise High the Roof Beams by J.D. Salinger. So yes, I'm a very wide reader, and I read both.
Yeah,
Look, here's a play as well, The Humans by Stephen Cram.
Fantastic.
This is messed up. But
Max, I love the fact it's a bit of an ongoing like thing with in the comic shows that everyone seems to have a portal of their stuff. Like, you start talking about something and someone will go, just give me a minute, and like just reach off screen and come back with a copy of it or what they're reading now and that. And it's portals are cool, man. I always like seeing what's in people's portals and what they're reading. But that's some diverse stuff you got there, man. You certainly do like to read a great variety of stuff, which is healthy. It's healthy for an imagination.
Yes, well, it's particularly evident when you have friends who are into music and they're also very diverse. Yeah. 1 minute they could be listening to opera, and then the next Metallica. It makes for very strange road trips.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's harder to identify as a reader or as a film watcher, but variety is it's definitely an asset, and it's something that I look for in my circle as well, because we're perennial students. We're always learning, and you learn right up until the day you die.
Yeah. Well, they say you got to use the old muscle up here, mate, or it disappears. So the more if you don't use it, you lose it, sort of thing. So
yes.
It's always good to read and like strengthen what you don't know, mate. Nothing wrong with knowledge is power, they say. So it's
like Pearson Community, the TV show Community, the rich old man who decides to go back to community college just to keep his mind active. That's us. That's us in 40, 30 years.
While the rest of us has fallen apart, mate. Like hopefully what you were saying before will have moved into that period of human evolution where we can just, zap into a younger version of ourselves when we're all,
that might just physicalize at the tail end of our lives. Yes.
Yeah. It'd be my luck, mate. They'd bring it out on a Monday and I'd drop dead on the Sunday. So
people who are born now are inheriting unlimited potential and just unlimited space and time. No one should be more excited than the generation that is being born today.
Well, I mean, God, there's heaps of things have opened up, man. Like the old what's that thing, the atom smasher, that like they're just trying to open up, like
The super collider. Yes, in
that's it. Like there's
CERN.
things going on in the world, man. Like that the average punter doesn't even know about. But there's dudes down there with their big goggles on. Like trying to, like create energies and life and get into parallel universes and discover all the things that like everyone wrote about in stories. So
and meanwhile, while that's happening, there's a construction worker in Iowa somewhere who's a portal is gonna open up right next to their house, or somewhere else, maybe in China, there's a corporation that's looking to harness that energy. That's the networking. That's the Balzacian story structure that fuels stuff like The Wire, and hopefully will fuel stuff like Stellarlands.
Yeah, Ripper. Hey, I've got a really random question for you.
Go ahead.
Because it's sort of off topic while we're talking about portals and parallel universes and stuff. I have a bit of a look, probably a healthy appreciation of UFOs, etc. And I guess what I'm getting to is there's like more and more as people get into it and stuff like that, they seem to be discussing the concept of perhaps UFOs aren't actually from outer space, but they're vehicles that transport people from parallel universes like equal to our own, that they've developed that whole thing. What do you take on that, man? What do you reckon?
Oh, wow. Well, I've never even considered it, to be honest, but just in our universe, it would be so arrogant to think that within the vast spectrum of the universe, we were the only ones important enough to be given custodianship of life. It's just very arrogant to think that the universe was created for me and me alone. So in that sense, I do subscribe to the reality that alien beings or extraterrestrial life is a thing. In terms of parallel universes, that's very interesting. So we're talking about just another plane of existence, not necessarily like a tunnel or from one part of the earth to another part of the earth. You're talking about a completely boxed out universe that exists.
Well, there's suggestions that a lot of activity happens around quartz. That quartz is a high energy, like stone, and in places of the world. I mean, there's the whole nuclear. They like nuclear power plants too, but let's just one step at a time here, Max. We'll focus on the quartz. They believe that where the quartz foundations of activity are, and there's like one in the Grand Canyon. There's quite a few. There are things called ley lines where
yes.
I've heard of them. Yeah. Where these energies of the world, like are stronger than other areas.
And it just so happens that like there are important monuments that are set about within these ley lines. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. And there's suggestions that they may in fact be energetic enough to have created some sort of gateway for these interdimensional people to come through. And that's the argument going on now, is that that's how UFOs they travel such long distances and things, man. So I'm getting a bit interstellar on you, man, because we're talking about Stellarlands and space and stuff. And
it's not a coincidence.
And my brain can just disappear off into the weirdest tangents, Max. It's for that. Thank you for putting up with me, man. And
no, it's fine. It's delectable. I mean that's why we're almost powerless in the wave, in the forward momentum of our creativity. I mean, we can't help but follow it in many ways that mirrors my own journey with Stellarlands. You could almost say that it was already formed, and I just had to bring it down. I had to strain and make sure that my grasp would meet my reach, and I brought it to this plane, so to speak. There's a theorist who writes about that all creativity is conjured, not necessarily created. It's just brought forth by some engine, some muse.
See, this stuff just amazes me, man. Hey, like it's even the old that the other thing that blows my mind is like that civilization, maybe not as technologically pronounced as it is now, but civilization to an extent has already been, and we're just like a tail end of something that's been in the past. Do you know what I mean? Due to events and things that have stopped those civilizations, I guess, man. Like.
All right. Could we be at the beginning of something as well?
We could be.
Logic, yeah.
Yeah, maybe, like there may be cycles, mate, like it's what's been before, like comes again.
That's Mass Effect. Yeah, that's Mass Effect.
Yeah. See,
I still don't know the villains' names in that video games, and I claim to be obsessed with it. But yes, every 30,000 years or something, there's an invasion which wipes out 90% of life in the galaxy, and that 10% is allowed to exist and then thrive and repopulate, and then these malicious forces once again come to bear and wipe 90%. That's the cycle that's imagined within Mass Effect. Yeah, it's great that we're all in the same weird existential wavelength, because in many ways that's what art is. It's us trying to not just make sense of our existence, but to add feathers to it, to make it pretty, to fulfill some sort of inner wish of how we wish reality were reflected.
Yeah. No, 100%, mate. Like, I totally agree with you. It's the conjuring of the creativity, I mean, essentially comes from deep within the individual, man. You know what I mean? So it's that's what I liked about Stellarlands is it's thinking. You know what I mean? Like it's you're reading it, it's world building, it's thinking. It's like, it's a fully formed, developed thing. You obviously haven't just come up with this idea in like, over a cup of tea and a vitamin C tablet, mate. You know what I mean? Like this is something that you've been, brewing for a while. And man, kudos to you, because it's like I reckon it came up like awesome. Like
I will take your thanks, and I will dispense it equally upon all of the contributors to the book, because while it's not an army, it's a small coterie. It's SK, who's the letterer, Wilson, who is the colorist, Ben, and Christina, who edited it as well, and of course now the good people at Comex, who are going to help distribute it and have eyeballs set upon it. And I mean, as authors, it's always a scary thing to have eyeballs on your work, but not everyone's going to like it, but so long as it's read and it's appreciated, in that sense that work is no longer yours, it's whoever's. It's the sandcastle has been made, and now the tide is taking it away. And Comex is a great stewardship for the tide to take away the sandcastle, I have to say.
Yeah. Mate, I think you should be raring and ready to go to get it out. To be quite honest, it's
I have a lot to learn. I mean, I have a lot of people to meet. I have a lot of disciplines to master. There's the journey of 1,000 steps. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, and I think I'm still at the genesis of that. But
Yeah,
it's been a
man,
great journey so far.
one thing I'm learning on my journey, bud, is there's a lot to learn, but if your mind is open to it, and you want to meet people and talk to people, and like see how they work, and see, there's so much you can do and think about, man. I look, for me, I love comics, Max. Like, raised on them, read them my whole life. To me, I think they're the perfect medium.
I'd love to hear some of your favorites while we're talking about that. I mean, give me a reading list. Give me a catalog.
Man, well, straight off the bat, I would say, look, The Crow is my number one comic book that I ever read.
You know what? I didn't even know that was a comic book. So yeah, that's definitely going to go on my Amazon. Yeah.
Well, check it out, because for me, when I was a young fella and I was drawing and stuff, and I was looking at like Marvel Comics, the Uncanny X-Men and DC and Image and all these things, I was like, man, I can't do that. Like, I'll try, but wow, I can't do it. And then I found The Crow. And for me, The Crow was the gateway for me into realizing that here's a guy that's been through, the writer, creator, that's been through this tragedy in life, and has put his blood and his tears and his soul into this story. And
what's the name of the writer?
James O'Barr.
Okay.
And it's not always perfect, man. You know what I mean? Like, in pieces, it's not always perfect. It's not the usual, like, Herculean, like, figure, and like, people are weathered. People are like normal people walking down the
street. Yes.
And that's what attracted me into the world. And yes, Rusty, the artwork in The Crow is amazing, man. Like, still find it so inspiring. Mate, I've read so many comics over the years. The Uncanny X-Men run was amazing. The manga Berserk blew me out. My God, dude, man, I'm looking at boxes over there, thinking about things, like, there's just so many. Swamp Things, Ghost Rider, like, there's such an amazing world out there, man, to look at. And, the best thing is, Max, is, man, there's some super, super talented Australian creators that are out there, mate. So it's while you're meeting these dudes and like creators, men, ladies, like all walks of life, man, like, feel free to check out their stuff, because there's an amazing array of talent, man, that makes me feel proud to be part of the Australian comic book creating community, man. So,
and if I could say something, there's no, you'll find this in other disciplines, but there is a sort of famine mentality or a summit mentality, where people who are practicing the art will view the people around them as competition almost. There's only so much room in the summit, or there's only so much nourishment to go around. And I guess I was guilty of that sort of thinking when I was in my 20s. I guess we all are. We're all fueled by competition straight out of uni. But something that I found that doesn't exist within the comic book community, well, the small pockets that I've met so far, is that there is no famine mentality. There is no summit mentality. Everybody reads each other's work. Everybody purchases each other's work and gives feedback. And there's a sort of equal plane of empowering, which is super encouraging, which is very encouraging. Awesome.
Oh, mate, it's to see people get better, to see people grow, to be part of that growth, to see yourself grow, like, amazing, man. I love it. Like, it's just, and like, man, g'day, SK. Like, the best thing about it is, man, is I think the only competition you should have is with yourself, in terms of your own creativity. I totally get where when you were younger and stuff, because I was the same. You look at that and you go, oh, I could do better, or that, that sort of thing. But and when you're with community of like-minded people who go through their struggles to put these stories out, or create, or follow their path, because man, I've got to tell you, Max, there's going to be some people out there think you're crazy. Because you got to have a crazy to you to do comics, mate. You know what I mean?
That's a requisite for any creative job. That's a mandate for any no-collar job. You have to have a bit of insanity. So, I would even say that that's absolutely necessary to, and almost inevitable, given how powerless we are within the wave of our own creativity. So, yes.
Well, mate, guess what? If SK, Max is crazy, but good crazy. Well, we like good crazy. But man, well, you're off to a good start if you got a little bit of crazy to you, and Peter Lane certified. Dear. But mate, great community. Everyone that I've ever had to deal with and stuff, met heroes, met other just peers, man, really inspire me and stuff like that. And I'm really excited to see what happens for you, mate, because
I'm curious myself. Yes.
Well, man, we're on the journey together, because it's like I'm going to be watching you every step of the way, because it's like I've had the opportunity to meet you tonight, man, and we've still don't stress, but I just get carried away with the enthusiasm of the comics, man.
Of course. Well, and Bustle is at its 4th book.
Yeah, 4 have come out, and I just finished the last edited panel for the 5th issue, mate. So that's not far amazing. Out. Yeah, that's a 44-page comic book this time. I went a bit silly.
And you illustrate as well as write. Is that correct?
Well, I write with my missus, Tamra. She's like, we write, letter, edit, we share parts. The story and older scripts, because my story, man's been going for 20 plus years, Max. So I understand fear, man, with starting something and being nervous about getting it out. Let me ask you
something. The Battle for Bustle at the beginning of your journey, 20-something years ago, how much has it changed from the Battle for Bustle now? Was there any maturation, or were you rigorously loyal to that original image, that original story?
There's rigorously loyal to a path, this is where we're heading with this story. But I guess the maturation of the story over time came in, because I'm not the same dude as what I was when I was 20, when I first started doing it. You know what I mean?
You don't want to be. Yes.
Yeah. So
if you are the same person who you are in your 20s, I think that's almost a failure in many ways. That's not allowing yourself to be influenced by your environment.
Yeah. So I guess the growth in it and expanse of things and just different ideas you get, over time, I was pretty heavily influenced by, I'm this old dude that I used to work at a giant, my first job was at a giant food chain of stores that starts with W, and I was in the produce department, right? And, you get, Lee chocolate, call through to the, blah, 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 blah. So off I go, dressed up in my little, baggy green cap they had, and off I went. And then the lady there, when I started, they used to pay you your wages in a little yellow slip at the end of every week. Here's your pay, sign it, take it home, get it to the bank. No, these dudes introduced finger scanning. And I remember I was probably 16 at the time, and that blew my mind, man. Finger scanning, and then they can track you. You know what I mean? You get there in the morning, blip, and you're off and running. And that, I guess, is where, in a weird way, that took the story that was a little foundation point. So I've always sort of been blown out by the, because there's an old science fiction suggestion too that like anxieties and stresses and depression, and not getting into like that because there's all different strains of it. Like mental health is a very important thing. We're also big on that at Comex. You got to look after yourself, look after your spirit, and all that sort of stuff because it leads to health, mate. But with the amount of technology that, you just get a new phone. Next week, there's another phone. Like everything's, you sort of can't keep up with what's happening. You know what I mean? It's coming at you so hard and fast. You think you're surrounded. So I've always had, I guess, just an interest in looking at my surroundings, seeing how people are affected by that, man. So I sort of, like got heavy into that, I suppose, man. And love.
Yeah.
Where is the world without love? Essentially, Battle for Bustle, man. What I believe is it's a story about love. It may not seem it to begin with, but you can trust me. It love, man.
No,
love for all things.
Yeah. That's like that whole the Donnie Darko axial line. Fear and love, and everything in life is just you bouncing between one and the other. But yeah, I can see where the whole master slave dynamic from Battle for Bustle came from.
Yeah.
and it just happened to start at this this grocery chain.
So that was the original spark, and then obviously led on to a few other processes to get to that. But that was where I started thinking, like technology, wowzers, not a bad thing, not a good thing, just affects people differently, like all things do in life, man. It's just how it is. So Max, when are we thinking at this stage, man, that Stellarlands is coming in hot? What are we thinking?
Right now, we are just in the process of building up our subscribership. Stephen SK was kind enough to point out that we have amassed around 50 followers on our Kickstarter.
Excellent.
Yes, but I'm just a guy who's creating stories, and really, this is all up to Shane. This is Sidsy's empire, and I completely respect that. And it's up to him. I know that he has a great handle on the marketing side of things. I believe he does it for a living, and I completely have faith and trust in his strategy. I can't give you any definitive dates, but we are so close. We're at my student self is going to be glaringly obvious right now, but I just discovered something called the PDF proof. Right now, we're in the midst of going through the PDF proof, where we've given it out to a bunch of close friends within our inner circle to proof it, to give suggestions, to pad it up, and so forth. And where and when the PDF proof is, correct me if I'm wrong, when the PDF proof is done, then it moves on to the physical proof. That's like 1 or 2 or 5 copies, just a finite amount of copies, where the comic book is the quality of the book is gauged. And when that's done, that's when the Kickstarter opens up. I might have gotten the chronology mixed up a little bit, still learning here, but I believe that's where we're at the moment. That's where we've landed. Yes. But I could feel things moving along the platform. The escalator is moving. I could I'm completely sensate to its motions. Yes.
You're feeling like it's picking up a bit of speed?
Yes. Yeah. There's a passive energy going on.
Good.
Even when I'm sleeping, you wake up and then you realize you've taken a bunch of steps. That's that's the necessary component of marketing, and marketing is incredibly difficult. It's very difficult. So I have the utmost respect. I also have the utmost suspicion for people who devote their lives to marketing, but I also have the utmost respect for those who can handle it in a very effective yet ethical way.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we often, we do a lot of talking about comic books and creation and stuff like that too. But over the last couple of weeks, and while we're talking about like marketing, these are some of the other things that, like go into comic books that a lot of people don't think about either, like just already from what you've said, you've learned so much, like it's a hell of a journey, man. Like it would have been like, the marketing that you got to get yourself out there and sell these things and, like put yourself on the, this is what it is. But
yes.
What after all of artists, editors, letterers coming together, writing a story to get your first PDF proof and to see it, and to sit there, what were you feeling at that point, mate?
Well, the sense of accomplishment hasn't really leveled yet. I still feel like I'm working, and I use that term lightly because I believe it was Mark Twain who said, "Find something you like to do, and you'll never work a day in your life." So I don't, I wouldn't give it the label of work, but it feels like a task. It still feels like a task. It still feels like one thing that I have to handle before I jump onto the next thing. But when this is all done, and when I have perspective, when I could sit back and just look at things, take a step back and see things with their in their grand architecture, then I'll be able to appreciate things. When the journey is done or half done, I can take stock of the journey. I can debrief. That's the word we use in filmmaking. When production is done, we have a wrap party, and then we can debrief. And until then, it's one vital task after another. The engine is well and truly running. I'm just waiting for the engine to stop, so I can breathe, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense, mate. I actually, I've said this on the show before too, and there's been lots of exciting moments for me in my short time as well, mate, doing this comic stuff. But I can't wait until I really hope I get to talk to you, or you let me know, or let Shane know, like how you feel when your first comic book turns up at your door, mate.
Yes.
There's nothing like that feeling, man. Like that. That's
I'll be cognizant. I'll be particularly self-aware when hopefully I'll come back on another interview, another live stream interview, and I'll be holding a copy. I'll be holding a copy like so, and maybe it won't feel like a task, but we just need that distance. We just need that objectivity in order to take pleasure sometimes, because when you're stuck in the mire, when you're just all you see is what's in front of you, and that's necessary. That's the difference between an astrophysicist and an astronaut. An astronaut has to just see the tasks, just tick off the boxes from the list. If they don't, they die. They don't have the luxury of seeing things in a grand way as astrophysicist or an oracle, and that's what Sidzi, that's what Shane is. He's like the oracle right now. And we were all just gleaning from his wisdom, so to speak.
No, well, mate, he's a good man, old Shane. It's like a great mate of mine, and always you've done amazing things for the comic community.
And it looks like it's growing. It looks like the gallery is growing, and
mate, it's exciting, Max. It's so exciting, man. Like I get. Look, man, I love it. It's so exciting to see new people, new faces. Get to I've got the luxury of getting to meet people. Like pretty much every Tuesday night, man. You know what I mean? Like and having a yarn and talking to them and seeing enthusiasm and seeing like people, like creating and stuff like that. Because, man, there's nothing like creativity, man, and
let me ask you something. Is there a common factor like in the grand scheme of all of these interviews that you've accumulated? Is there an attribute or quality that we all share, all these creatives share?
Passion.
Okay, nice.
100%. There's not one of these interviews that I haven't come away from, and obviously everyone has their different paths. The reason I guess I started this, man, is because I found I've done a lot of live streams and stuff now with comics and overseas and stuff, and I always found that people never. You got your 10 or 15 minutes, and there was a story, there was something there, and then it was on to the next guest or something, then someone else would start talking that. And I always loved, everyone's got a story. I love that idea. And then my grade 12 history teacher said to me once, and I always remember this, I think Shane has something special in store for Stellarlands. Should be good. Absolutely, Rusty. She said the best way to learn something about a subject you have no idea about is who, what, where, when, why, and how. And you will find out as much as you can. Everyone has their own story. I like to let people breathe and yarn and talk and show their passion, man, because it's inspiring. Because like what you're talking about here tonight and yarning about different topics, it's inspiring someone else. While they're probably sitting at home drawing or inking or writing, you know what I mean? And it's just it's everyone's, I guess. Every individual should have their right, I guess, to not a right, but their opportunity to, let us all know what it's about, like what makes you tick. Why are you doing this? Because there's this. Like I said to you, you got to be a good crazy to do this stuff, man. I'm finding out because it's like there's lots of time to yourself. There's a lot of sacrifices that get made, like. You miss some opportunities. You sometimes you want to, I just want to draw, I just want to create. And, mates say to me all the time, it's like, why do you just stay in that granny flat all the time? Because I'm doing stuff, man, that makes me happy, And
yes.
I guess it's just one of those things that, like for, and there's so many different facets of comics too, Max, like it's not just writers and creators, like there's letterers, there's editors, there's cover artists, there's promotions.
It's a marginalized medium. Yeah.
Oh man, there's as you get more into it, there's so many layers of it, and all of those people have got a story too, and they work damn hard, like to get their stuff out. So that's passion is what I see majority of, mate. To be honest.
A lot of beating hearts, yeah, definitely.
And hard work, lots of hard work. So it's but it's nothing easy ever comes without hard work, man.
But if you love it, it doesn't feel like work. That's the paradox.
Yes, it is, mate. I know, man. My paradox is I didn't leave the granny flat for because I work in a granny flat. It's like my studio thing, and I didn't leave here for 5 days, man. And from like 7 a.m. in the morning until like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, I was down there and I banged out like 6 pages, man, over like 5 days.
And that's just the pen to paper aspect of it. There's a whole other abstract form of working that you engage in, whether it be ruminating on the train, thinking or putting ideas together, or talking to someone and then being lost in your own trajectory of fiction. It doesn't begin at the granny flat. The granny flat is where you're trying to get to. You have to be very lucky to be in that granny flat in many ways. Yeah,
for sure, man. And the one thing that comes, I think, with creativity, and this is just a learning lesson for people that are listening. Sometimes, because you're so creative and your juices are flowing and you are out there in the real world and that, sometimes you're in places where you're not 100% present in the moment. You know what I mean? Like, you could be with friends, you could be doing something, but forever that brain is just ticking, man. You know what I mean? Like, with story ideas and what you got to do. And
it's so that's probably, look, I don't have a wife or kids, so that whole idea of sacrifice might feel a bit alien, because I got disposable income. What have I got to piss and moan about, But if there is a sacrifice, it's that you're never really present. You're always in the void of the Stellarlands, or in Bustle, which is your world. That's, and it might not seem like a big deal, but when you look back, you kind of think, I might have missed something there, or all the I'm all the women who had crushes on me. Oh, I didn't notice that, or all the assignments that I could have applied myself more into, and stuff like that. That's the sense of being present that goes away, because you've only got a finite amount of brain space, and it seems like a fair portion of it is being used for your creative endeavors. Goodness, that's I guess that is a sacrifice in many ways. And even though when you're not working on a project, you find yourself doing silly creative things, like I was in a Tinder date like a few years ago, for no reason I just started talking in an accent for the whole date. There was no logic to it. There was no reason. I think there was just some kind of experimentation that I needed to indulge in, and I wasn't necessarily present for that particular date. And there's
just a little bit of role play that night, Max. Just
which is so necessary for character building and writing, and you're flexing your creative muscle even when you start the day with no intention of doing so.
No, mate. What accent were you using?
South African. South African. No, for no reason whatsoever. And that's you just find yourself doing some very strange things, and you could see it in the train. People with notebooks. I don't know if you kept a notebook, but if you have one from decades ago, I encourage you to open it up and see first of all, see how much your writing has evolved, but also see what was lingering within the hollows of your mind at that particular point, and whether it was coherent. That's
I've found I'm a hoarder, Max. Like, and before like laptops and things like that, God, I handwrite a lot of stuff. I know it seems weird, but like I just prefer to handwrite notes and even scripts, man. Like
that's not strange at all. John le Carre, he's my favorite writer, so to speak. He writes on pieces of paper, then he cuts them up. His wife cuts them up, and then he sticky tapes it in a page. So it's very Elmore Leonard. Those yellow legal notes, because his background is in law. He writes his novels on those yellow Post-it notes. And his assistant, the poor guy or girl, has to get all these notes and transcribe them. So it's very it's actually not uncommon to still be obsessed with penmanship and writing. And
I just think it because there's no. I've always been interested in, like, I don't know, science fiction, spirituality. You place, like, as the world develops more into a machine, do you get dragged into the machine, or do you try and find some do you find some distance? Do you maintain the natural state of your humanity, or do you assimilate? All of these things. And I didn't realize, but with being a hoarder and looking back at artwork and writing and stuff like that, it's always been a central theme, man, for me. That's that's always been of interest, to be honest with you. Just, God, just even trying to find yourself in this communicative, everything's buzzing, I mean, who would have thought? I'm no scientist, but I mean, things marvel me, man. Who would have thought that I could be sitting in a granny flat 15 meters away from a modem, which is in the house?
Yes.
You have a few little hiccups here and there, but I'm talking to you, picture, we having a yarn, from the other side of Australia. It's just stuff like that, just still.
This conversation couldn't happen 50 years ago. Huh. There would be the White Australia policy. I'd be in Philippines, being a farmer or something.
Yeah.
This, and 100 years before that, this wouldn't have happened. I'd been fighting in the Philippine American War, and you would have been a convict on a ship bound for Sydney. I suspect. But
yes, my ancestors were actually, mate.
Yeah.
For stealing a loaf of bread.
Yeah. What was that? Sorry?
For stealing a loaf of bread, apparently, in 1831 was when my first relative touched down. And he was an Irishman. And because he's speaking of accents, because his accent was so thick, when they asked, when they took his name, he gave it as Charker. And we were originally Charkers, Charker, because of his accent. And once he did his time and then got his block of land and, wife and kids and all that, he proceeded to, legalize Chalker. Yes. But there's still a few Charkers out there that stem from that original bloodline, mate, all through New South Wales and Gundagai and sorts of places.
Do you find you have an inner connection with Ireland? Do you find a simpatico there?
Yeah, no, not really. No. I've never really felt like an urge to I need to be there, but I do feel an incredible urge regularly to be like Gundagai in New South Wales is where my family got to, amongst other things, and just a huge conglomerate of my family from Gundagai. They've now stretched on, but it's an amazing sensation. Like my dad's buried in Gundagai, and hundreds of about 100 odd years of my relatives are buried in Gundagai. And there's a pretty cool feeling that because you got to go off the overpass now. But as you're coming into the town, there's a big hill on to the left, and there's a rock. Then you turn off on it, and you stand on this hill, and you look out over Gundagai, and it's a really strange sensation that I've had, Max, is actually had tears the times I go there, thinking wow, this is where all my descendant, people. And
no, I completely. I sincerely believe in inherited trauma. You're inheriting the emotions of your ancestors right till to the origination point of man. Because I don't know if you have kids or not, but if you don't have kids, you're the first person in your bloodline to not have kids right up till since the beginning of time. Think about that. And within that lineage, I think, well, I'm almost certain that you inherit the trauma of those who came before you. I sincerely believe that. And I think that's what you're feeling. You're feeling a sort of psychic energy within Gundagai, within that hill. There's
it's
dialogue taking place.
Max, I'm telling you, and people out there think I'm crazy already. So it's it doesn't matter if I talk to you about this. This is what Chinwag is.
They're crazy too.
I have sobbed, man, on that hill. I hadn't been what I felt home for maybe 5 years at the time. Oh man, getting emotional about it now. But
it wasn't a picnic for the Irish. I mean, yeah, you guys have been marginalized within every monarchy, within every the Jacobean era, the Bethlen era, the Victorian. It's a consistency that the Irish people have been the recipients of scorn and ridicule, and that's why their art is so amazing. That's why their plays and Finnegan's Wake, and that's why through that suffering they're able to create the deeper the wound, I guess, is the softer the tune, or the sweeter the tune, I believe is the saying. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a powerful thing, man. Heritage and stuff like that. It's but
and that's what you're feeling. I think that's the blowback. That's the historical blowback you're feeling whenever you hit that geographical space. It might not be a ley line, but it's your ley line. You put it that way. That's where your the linearity of your emotional history is.
Yeah. It's a hell of a place, man. If you ever get the opportunity to go to Gundagai or the surrounds, it's pretty groovy little town, man. It's lots of history happened there. Because here's one for people who don't know: Gundagai is the exact middle point of the Murrumbidgee River between Sydney and Melbourne. So when they were droving back in the day, that was the lowest point of that river, so they could get the cattle and sheep or whatever they were, taken down to Melbourne and vice versa. Now, where you get the dog on the tucker box, 5 miles from Gundagai, is that one of my relatives, and anyone can look this up in the history books, man. It's all there. The 5 miles out of Gundagai, there was a small hotel made out of wood and stuff like that. So it was like a bungalow, one of those things you see in frontier Australia.
Yes.
And that is where the drovers used to stay. And that was a pub that was run by relatives of mine out there. And every time the drovers would be off drinking, their cattle dogs were trained to sit on the tucker box. So, and that's in their tucker box is not only did they keep their food and that, but they kept their private stuff, their belongings and things too, man. So, it's a great story going Gundagai. So thank you for veering me off on that, Max, because it's that's cool. We've had a great old yarn tonight. See what can happen on a Chinwag, man. Houses.
Well, I drive to Melbourne actually quite often, so I'll take you up on that. Maybe I'll stop by for a bit. Unfortunately, it's still the case that some of these smaller towns are quite passive aggressive to non-white people. I hope we'll get past that at some point. But I'm hoping Gundagai presents itself as one of the more hospitable places. And mate, I'll definitely have a look. Yeah.
When you go there, there's a little. It's a takeaway shop, right? Takeaway shop, but those old classic American diners in the 20s and 30s and that with it's still like that, owned by the same family, man. And like in this little diner, Australian prime ministers have had meetings there. Donald Bradman, it's a pretty amazing place, man. I would recommend, going and checking Gundagai out.
Next road trip,
Yeah, please do, man. And you give me a 5 million word essay on what you thought of Gundagai, okay?
I don't have 5 million words in me.
That's all right. I probably don't have 5 million words of energy to read anyway, so it's okay. We'll settle on a thumbs up or a thumbs down, bud. So, Max.
Yes.
But as we sort of start winding down into the show,
yes,
I always like to ask the guest, because there's 2 questions that I find important, the most important out of everything.
Okay.
And that is the why do you do it to yourself? And not just Stellarlands, but creativity in general. And if you starting out now, coming into your first comic book, what would the one piece of advice be to anyone that isn't quite in your position, and what you're learning, what would your piece of advice be to help them along the way from what you've seen so far?
Okay. All right. Okay. So the first question, which is why do I do it? I think I just might be genetically predisposed to it. I have a family tree which bristles with a great many creative branches, a lot of writers, a lot of published authors, a great many creatives. So that's one abstract explanation. The other one is, as I've been saying, maybe people like you and me were just powerless within the wave of our creative forward momentum. Even if it was just one person reading it, we'd devote 50% of our lives to the creation of work, if it means getting to that one pair of eyeballs. I guess in the short form, we were. It was an inevitable mandate for both of us. Something in our brains. I don't know. All right. And any advice for someone not in this position? I guess. Well, let me talk to the people in their 20s. All right, because I imagine that's a majority of Shane's writership and comics' gallery of writers. Those who are just about to embark on any creative direction, I would say that you have to not let go of the student mindset. You have to always be within that mindset of learning. You have to surrender that ego. You have to you have to, I guess, show flex with your vision. And because if you learn to let things go, I find that if you have a student mindset, it's easier to let things go, but it's also easier to supplant the things you let go with a new direction, or even a new project, or even a new circle of friends, if that's what's needed. I wish someone told me that when I was in my 20s. Just an arrogant student, an arrogant filmmaker, arrogant writer. I mean, there's a lot of those around, but you get over it. Life smacks you around a bit, and then with relationships, and you realize that your accrued knowledge in your 20s doesn't measure up to a cup of rice or half a cup of rice. You just need to be open to learning. And I think if you inculcate that mindset, if you imbue yourself with that openness before you're 30, I think you'll have more energy to spare. I think look, there's, I'm not sure who said it, but someone said who you are at 30 is probably who you're going to be for the rest of your life. And I don't mean your physical surroundings could change, your earning potential could change, your friends could change, but who you are in terms of your personality, in terms of your instinct, is probably calcified within that 30 to 35 range. So while you're malleable in your 20s, I think it's good to be that perennial student. Martin Scorsese is 80 years old, and I love listening to his interviews. He always says that he's always learning. He's always a student. He did his first 3D film when he was in his 20s, the Hugo, which is based on the fabulous invention of the fabulous invention of Hugo Cabret. And he came into it as a student, and he was learning alongside his actors. I mean, if you could have that mindset in your 80s, I think you should. I think it would have been gestated in your 20s. So please hold on to that. Hold on to that learning. Where me and you, we're going to be peers in community, enrolling in the community colleges well into our septuagenarian, octogenarian ages, just trying to keep our minds active. Being a student is no flake. It's I think that's where you generate a soul if you hang on to that. Yeah.
I think that's 100%, mate. Well said. Well said, Max.
It's very difficult for someone in their 20s who thinks they know everything to surrender their identity, to that. That's just, that's the hard part. Breaking that brick wall, that sense of I know everything. That sense of confidence. Yeah, I wish I had the self-confidence I had when I was in my 20s. Man, if I had the self-confidence I had in my 20s when I had in my 30s, this conversation would have been so different. And
shorter, longer. What do you reckon? Pick it.
I guess you wouldn't have been talking. I guess this would have been decidedly one-sided. I think that's a common sentiment among younger writers. But that's why. I think. We have there's a good sound investment in the people who are going to create for our comics, because they're from the few who I've met, they're very open-minded and very open to feedback.
I think that's a healthy way to be, mate. Is it's keep learning, keep taking advice, keep trying to get better, and and along the way, like with positive energy, positivity, is attracted. Now, I would like to, we were having a little bit of a chuckle before the show, because one last thing before we go, I do need to ask.
Go ahead.
Now, for everyone out there, Max isn't his real name. So it's Martin. So Martin, where's your love affair with Max come from?
You know what? It's just a frivolous nickname. Not even a nickname. No one calls me Max. It's just a frivolous pen name that I've always wanted. I look in the mirror. I'm looking at this live stream now at this window with my face in it. Does this guy look like a Martin? That kind of looks like a Max. I think he looks like. I don't know. You pulled it from the air. I know your name is probably the least important thing about your identity, but if I was to look at this person in a green shirt walking in a beach somewhere, I'd say maybe he looks like a Max. I don't know. Ferrada is just a truncation of my real last name, which is Ferrada. Yes, but Max is nice and sharp, and there's logic to that as well. There's about as much logic to that as there is me doling out a fake accent on a Tinder date. Rusty gets it.
There you go, Rusty. That's a good name.
Yeah.
Some names stick, don't they? Well, Max, mate, Max/Martin, buddy, I have had an absolute pleasure talking to you this evening, mate.
Mutual, sir.
Yeah, man. It's I love meeting passionate people and like-minded people, man. And it was an awesome chat. Came at a time when I really needed a good positive kick, man. So for that, I sincerely thank you. I certainly want everyone out there that's watching, go and jump onto that Notify Me page on the Stellarlands Kickstarter.
There it is.
Stellarlands.comex.studio, because I've been lucky enough to have a look at it, and I highly rate it. And I think it's going to be something that people out there are going to enjoy immensely.
Yes.
From meeting Max tonight, it has only compounded that fact for me. Yes. So, mate, I wish you every success with the oncoming Kickstarter, and every success and best of luck with everything. And I'll be watching you, man, and giving you thumbs up from the I guess to the left. It's best of luck with Stellarlands from Rusty too. Now, before we go, don't forget, There's a heap of Australian comic books out there, and I'm talking more than you could poke a stick at. So there's tons and tons of stuff out there, and they're on the Comex shop. You can get comics over, I think there's 100 titles, something crazy like that. That's just a start.
I got this. I just read this. This was amazing. The writer is a genius.
Mate. Thank you. Thank you very much. There's Reverie, there's Gestalt, there's Cyclone, there's Oz Comics, there's Comics Oz. My God, there's so many places that you can reach out, and Amplified Press that you can go and get Australian comic books, man, that are awesome. And people out there love your support, so support each other. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe the YouTube videos that are happening, because that all, press the little bell, because that helps all the internety webby, time space interface things, when these shows get found, and it builds up a fan base, and we love, doing that. Thank you for that, Peter. Thank you for everyone that has watched this evening. Greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for your support. But don't forget, there's not only Tuesday Chinwags on Tuesdays. You got the Wednesday Oz Comex show. You got the Friday night drink and draw, which is up to episode 81, if you can believe that, this week.
That's it. Nice.
Man, woo, Nelly, that thing's flying along. And you've got the Sunday Spotlight. So all of these things are happening. Next Tuesday, I've got Neville Tiberius Howard, because, collectors of comics are an important thing. So this is what I mean, Max. There's people, the comic book world is just so broad, man, so broad with people, and it's all important, mate, in the scheme of things. So thank you, Nick. Thank you for the support. Max, good on you, buddy. Best of luck. And just remember, everybody, community is unity. See you all later. See you next week.
Thank you very much. Till we meet again.
Bye-bye.
This show is sponsored by the Comex Shop. Check out comex.cx for all things Comex and find out what Comex is all about. We hope you enjoyed the show.